piano that's in tune. Such a joy to play. The question today is, how often do you need to tune your piano? I'm Robert Estrin here at Living Piano TV, and this is a question I get a great deal of time, and I wanted to address it to you a little bit. And there is a very, very wide range as to how often a piano needs to be tuned based upon many different factors. So first, let me give you some extremes. For example, at Indiana University School of Music, where I got my performance degree, in the recital hall, the pianos are tuned every day. And that way, if one note goes out even a tiny bit, it's addressed that day. As a result, because the pianos have been tuned every day for so long, they almost don't go out of tune at all. They are so stable. There's an old saying among piano tuners that you can't tune an out-of-tune piano. And as crazy as that sounds, there's some truth to it, because if the piano gets too far out, as the tuner tunes on one section of the piano, it actually stresses the soundboard and knocks out the other section they just tuned. So indeed, if you go too far, too long between tunings and your piano gets too far out of tune, they have to do a quick tuning and then a second tuning right after, at least 2 tunings, just to get it up to pitch, and then a fine tuning. And that tuning may not hold very long either. So it's like preventative maintenance. So getting back to what are the actual minimum amounts that you can tune a piano? Well, once again, it depends upon a couple of factors. The stability of the environment is one, how much the piano is played is another, and how new the piano is the third. Let me address each of these. If you're in a stable environment, for example, Southern California like here, and there are no extremes of temperature, humidity, that's very good for stability. If you're in a place that goes wild swings, particularly in a temperate climate where you go from hot, dry air in the winter to the humid, moist air or air conditioning in the summer, the piano will definitely have to be tuned at least twice a year, maybe even 4 times a year, just to be stable. California might get by with 1 or 2 times, unless the piano's played a great deal. You know, I have my pianos, my personal piano tuned about once a month, and I touch it up about every 2 days, trying to keep it perfect. And it's a thankless task, because right after the piano is tuned, as soon as I start playing it, if I rip into a Liszt Hungarian Rhapsody or a Chopin Scherzo, there will be some notes out of tune right after the very first piece. In fact, on my father's recording sessions, he would have the piano tuner there at the session, at the beginning tuning the piano, and then sitting there the entire session. Every time he would take a break, the tuner would touch up the piano, because a piano goes out of tune as soon as it's played. So those are 2 factors. So you want to have the piano to become stable. The last thing I talked about is the age of the piano. Interestingly, a new piano or a newly restrung piano will not be as stable as a piano that has some years of stable tunings behind it. So if you have a piano that's just been built or just been rebuilt, the first couple of years you plan on tuning it about twice as much. So you might have to tune it 3 or 4 times a year for the first couple of years. Then it gets more stable, and then you might be able to go by with 1 or 2 times a year. If you're like me and you play heavily, you're going to have to tune your piano more than that. I would say 4 times a year for a serious player is really about right. And it depends how picky you are. For recording work, a piano has to be tuned for every single recording session to really sound good, and even with, during the session. So it depends how picky you are, but boy, it's a joy when the unisons are pure. The sound of a piano is enhanced so much, it's incredible. And I make every effort to keep all my pianos as stable in tuning as possible. And I suggest you do the same. The joy you'll get from it, you don't save by putting off your tunings, because ultimately you'll pay one way or another. So if you get it stable enough, you'll be able to slack off on the tunings, and it will tend to hold if you get it to that point. One last question, which is, can you tune your piano yourself? And the simple answer is no. Now, I don't want to discourage anybody from attempting it with intelligence, but be aware that learning how to tune a piano well takes hundreds, if not thousands of tunings before you're going to be really good at it. So it's just kind of like, let's say you are not mechanically inclined and you decide to rebuild a transmission in your car. Can you do it? Well, yeah, you read enough books on it, but you're probably not going to do the best job on the first transmission you try to do, and it's going to take you much, much longer than someone who's done hundreds of them or thousands of them. It's the same thing with tuning a piano. There are over 220 strings that have to be tuned on the piano. A good tuner can make the piano in tune. A great tuner, the piano will hold its tuning longer because the way they set the string, they have experience. So I've had tuners who were competent, who've tuned a piano for me, and it's in tune. And then I play the piano, and 30 minutes later, it's already going out pretty extremely, compared to a tuner who really knows their business. The tuning will last much longer. So if you really want to get into it, realize it's an endeavor that you want to, first of all, get the right equipment. Don't skimp on getting the right tools, because the tuning hammer that you choose, the wedges, the whole methodology, you really want to put some work and time if you're going to embark upon tuning a piano. You should not minimize the work. The other thing is that a fine tuner, piano technician, will know how to do more than just tune. So your notes, you might have a piano in tune, but some of the dampers could be hanging up, or there's buzzes or sluggish keys. You're not going to be able to learn all those things. It's a lifetime endeavor to know how to deal with all the myriad problems that exist. And if you're like me, whenever your tuner comes, take advantage of their time. They're already there anyway. Have them do a little bit more refinement on voicing and regulation to improve your piano over time, to get closer and closer to that ideal perfection. Thanks for joining me, Robert Estrin, here at Living Pianos TV. I'll see you next time.